Skeffling is situated near the East Yorkshire coast not far from Spurn Point at the mouth of the Humber estuary. Surrounded by open farmland, the village has been the backbone of the community since records began. Since the pub and the shop closed and were turned into residential accommodation, there are few facilities for the population of 160. The idea to install a wind turbine came about through discussions about how best to heat the village hall, so microgeneration technologies were explored. The wind turbine was not the initial choice, but was chosen as other options were eliminated. The small turbine produces electricity to heat and light the hall. The surplus energy generated provides additional funds for its maintenance, repairs and replacement in years to come. This ensures sustainability for future years.
Right, I'm James Robinson, a member of the parish council, one of 7, and I got involved with the project because we needed to heat the village hall. It was as simple as that, a way of finding a power supply to heat the village hall and a technology for it. Gas was going to cost £14,000 to come down the road from the main road. Diesel meant that or kerosene or whatever, meant that we had to have a tank outside, which was open to theft. Both of those technologies actually meant that we were running a central heating unit. They didn't provide lighting or electricity for anything else, music or whatever. So we were left with electricity. Possibly we should be responsible, look to the 21st century and look at renewable technologies. There were a number of things we looked at. Ground source heat pump was suggested at the beginning, but it only provided heat. And it provided heat on a constant basis. The village hall was used, or is used, intermittently. And it uses a lot of power in a very short time, and then nothing happens for a while. So you wouldn't want a constant source of heat or hot water. We don't have sports fields, so we didn't want showers or hot water for that. Ground source heat pump, therefore, was put to the side, and it was how do we generate electricity? The two that were left were wind turbines or photovoltaic. In 2006, when we were discussing this, photovoltaic was very, very expensive, and it was basically out of our remit. We also looked at the fact that if it was photovoltaic with a roof of only about 8 feet from the ground, it was very easy to drive a van alongside and remove it. Not so easy to steal a turbine.
Was there any resistance in the village itself to the turbine, because they are quite emotive things?
Initially not, because it was put into the newsletter in June 2006 that this is what we were thinking. We needed to be able to heat the village hall. We were doing it up, and we were thinking of a wind turbine. Any comments? We didn't get any objections at all, not until planning.
And then what happened?
2 people, as far as we know, objected. One on the grounds that it would scare the horses and livestock and whatever, and another suggested that it might kill bats, the pipistrelle bats that we have around here, and or other birds. And I think there was a third, but not voiced, objection that it would interfere with the view of the church, look inappropriate. It was a combined project between the parish council and the village hall committee. Total build cost for the actual turbine itself and ancillary electrical equipment was about 22,000. Prior to getting these grants, we had to establish that, or prove, in fact, that the village hall was energy efficient in itself, e.g. no drafts, double glazed, loft insulation, low power lighting, and to the best of our ability make it so it's not losing power. That would be ridiculous. So that's where the Humber and Wolds Rural Community Council came in and did a free energy survey, which was brilliant. And with that, they suggested various things that we needed to do, which was, in fact, draft-proofing the doors and 8 foot of insulation in the loft and changing the lighting systems. Everything went through the parish council, but it had to be a one-man band as far as pushing everything through. Otherwise, a committee gets complicated.
How long did the process take then, from deciding you were going to go for the turbine to actually having it up and running?
Well, around about May 2006, and it was completed in February 2007. The whole idea was to have a fund, not only for maintenance and repair and servicing and ancillary costs, whatever they might be, incurred solely from the turbine, but also to have a fund building for the future to replace that technology. It is not sustainable if you cannot replace that thing you have. So if at 20 years it's used up and done, then suddenly you've had all these grants, put all this effort in, and suddenly you cannot afford to replace it. So by paying for its replacement, it makes sustainable sense. The power from the turbine comes in through that cable into this control box, which turns it from AC to DC. It then supplies it to the inverter. The inverter cleans up the power and supplies it back, turns it back into AC, and either supplies it to the village hall, or if we're not using it, to the grid. Above there, this is the a monitoring device called a web box, which monitors not only the output of the turbine itself, but the wind speed, outside temperature and outside sunshine, and sends all the information to a website in Germany. When it's producing power and we are in the village hall, we get the power first. If we're using more power than it can provide, the rest comes from the grid. If we're using less power than it provides, the surplus power goes to the grid. We use the grid effectively like a battery. There's been a definite increase in the number of people that want to hire the hall. There are always things that you could have done better or a different way or whatever. I think that we may have plumped for photovoltaic cells purely for the reason that they are low maintenance and they are now much cheaper than they used to be. The technology has reduced in price dramatically. They are low maintenance and very efficient, and it works, and there's no yearly maintenance. But it doesn't involve the community so much. With the turbine, every July we have to get a whole pile of people together, and we drop the turbine and we pull it to bits and we service it and we put it back up again. Would I have another turbine? I think I would rather... I don't know, it depends on the situation. If it was exactly here for this purpose, I would probably say now I would go for photovoltaics as being the easier option. For all I've said about it being, pulls the community together to mend it and whatever, I still think that I would go for photovoltaics. But there is a risk of theft.